language topic today, which is verbs. Now, this video is for the students of standard 8th, 9th and 10th. However, students from the middle school can also view this video, as verbs is a very basic and foundational topic essential to solve other language topics. And that is why it is important that we master the knowledge of verbs so that we get better at solving other complex topics that may come. You will see how verbs forms the crux of all of these different language topics. Now, for verbs, if I ask students what are verbs, the usual answer that I get is that verbs are action words. Why? Because verbs show you what a person is doing, right? For example, to run, I'm doing the action of running. To eat, I am doing the action of eating. To dance, so I am moving about, I'm doing some kind of action when I say that these are verbs. Okay? However, there is a lot more to verbs than just being action words. Verbs therefore do just more than the action, or they're not just doing verbs as we've learned. And we're going to see how they get even more complex so that we can solve other topics. Yeah, this is my little cartoon. Same word. Now, verbs can be divided into finite and non-finite verbs. So, take these three examples. He ran to play after school. Swimming is good for health. Crying babies scare me. Now, from these three sentences, I want you to pick out the verb. So take a minute, pause the video, and pick out what you think the verbs are in these three sentences. And then we will check together if you and I have the same answers. So I've assumed that you've paused the video and now you have the answers. And it's time for us to check. Now, I don't expect you to get the same answers as I have, because you will take some time to practice and get a hang of verbs. If you have gotten all the verbs that I have, that's a brilliant job. Don't get disappointed if you don't, alright? Now, he ran, so ran, to play. Swimming is crying and scare. These are the verbs in the three sentences. However, based on the role that they play in the sentences, we can divide them into finite and non-finite verbs. This is something as students we must learn. It's like solving a puzzle. When I give you a sentence, each word there is a part of a speech. They play different roles within that sentence. And we must learn to identify what role does that particular word play in that sentence. So we're going to first look at the finite verb. What are finite verbs and how do we identify them? Now, the first rule of identifying the finite verb is the subject. So, what is the subject in this sentence? He ran to play after school. I know that the subject is usually a noun or pronoun which indicates the person, thing, or the animal or whatever it is doing that particular action. So for example, here, who ran to play? He ran to play. So he becomes my subject. Now, the finite verb is that verb that immediately follows the subject. So here, the word that immediately follows the subject is ran. So ran becomes my main verb or the finite verb. Now, just for those who don't know what subjects are, subjects can be pronouns like I, he, she, we, they, it, one, or they can be nouns, that means names of people, things, places, animals that you can use to say whoever is doing the action. Now, the next rule is changing tense. To identify the finite verb, we can always look whether the verb is changing its tense. Let's take the same example. He ran to play after school. He runs to play after school. He will run to play after school. He had run to play after school. Now, if you are vigilant and observant about the video, then you will automatically be able to identify that this verb is changing its tense in all the sentences. However, we had identified another verb in this sentence, right? To play. To play has remained constant. It hasn't changed its tense. That immediately tells me that ran fits the second rule, which is it is capable of changing its tense. Now, if you remember, there was another sentence, swimming is good for health. I get a lot of students asking me, how is a verb? Well, we're going to look at that. To identify what are verbs, the basic thing that we need to look at, and for those who study, French and Portuguese, you will be able to connect with this immediately because this is the foundation of even French and Portuguese. There are three basic verbs that we need to look at. To be, to do, to have. Okay, if someone asks you what are verbs, they're not just action words. They're words that tell you these three things. To be is the state of being of a person or thing or place. To do is the action, and to have is to have possession of something. Verbs therefore identify with these three actions. Okay? Now, to be can be conjugated into is, was, are, were, being, been. I've forgotten another one, which is am. So for example, if I have to make a sentence, I am 7 years old. Right? It tells me my state of being. He is a boy. She is a dancer. It is the state of being, and therefore is, am, were, was, okay, becomes the finite verb. Let's look at to do. To do can be conjugated into do, does, did, done. And to have can be conjugated to has, have, had. This knowledge of this basic conjugation of verb is very important when you will be solving your tenses. Many students, when they're transforming, when they're doing their tenses, they forget what is the conjugation of to be. Okay, or they forget what is the conjugation of to have. And so we need to have this basic knowledge. Alright, let's move ahead. So, swimming is good for health. If you look at is, it can be changed to was, and therefore it fits the second rule of finite verb, where I can change the tense. Even in the next sentence, crying babies scare me, the verb scare changes its tense, and so it fits that second rule. However, how does it fit the first rule? And for that, you'll have to look at the next video. So we're going to look at the other remaining verbs that don't follow this rule of finite verbs, which are to play, swimming, and crying, and identify how they actually become non-finite verbs. For that, stay tuned for the next video to learn more about verbs. Thank you.